Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. And actually heading over to pick Elijah up at daycare right now, and been really busy today, so this is about the only chance I had to do today's video. And gonna do today's video on a couple requests I've had from from a few subscribers the last couple weeks. And they wanted to know, how long do you know how to fish a spot before giving up on it? Which is a really good question, because this is a question that even pros ask themselves. And it's one of those deals where I've always said that, you know, bass fishing always boils down to decisions. You know, you make the right decision, you look like you're a genius. You make the wrong decision, you look like you're clueless, like you don't know what's going on. And deciding on how long to stay or when to leave a spot is one of those things. So today I'm going to sort of walk you through my approach to it, sort of how I go about it, and share some of the things that have worked for me and have not worked for me over the years. First of all, when you're deciding how long to give an area, you have to break it down and you have to analyze the potential that area has to produce throughout the course of a day. Generally, some areas are more time sensitive. In other words, there's a population of fish that live there, and it's just a matter of waiting them out. There's little bite windows that occur throughout the day. And sometimes those bite windows can change all the time. They could be right off the bat in the morning. Sometimes they could be up in the middle of the day. They could be in the afternoon. A lot of these things are dependent on weather patterns a lot, and current too. So the first thing you have to do is you have to analyze the potential that area has for producing if you're not getting a bite like right here and now. I'll give you guys a prime example. Let's talk about some of the Alabama River lakes, like Lay Lake, Logan Martin, some of those places, those impoundments that have a significant amount of current on the upper end of them. A lot of times, you know, you could go up the upper end of those rivers and you could flip laydowns and throw a spinnerbait for the first 3 hours and not get a bite. And a lot of people would say, well, it's time to bail out, but a lot of times it's current generated. You know, if they open those gates and turn the current on at noon, a lot of times you want to hang into that area until the current starts. The bite could pick up there. So anything that you catch during those slow periods is a bonus. Same thing if you're fishing tide. Sometimes you can be on a big grass flat and you could not be catching them under a certain tide. The tide could be too low, too high. But once it gets into that prime tide, those fish will start biting. So in a situation like that, you tend to want to, you know, give an area longer, because the potential is there for those fish to bite, you know, at different times of the day. But if you're fishing like isolated targets, if you're fishing like a series of main lake points, if you're fishing boat docks, you know, stuff like that don't have a big potential to hold a large group of fish, they're more individual or low groaner type fish, that's an area that I don't give as much time. It's, say for example, if I'm fishing boat docks, if I go through an area and I fish maybe an hour or two on some key boat dock stretches and I don't get bit, a lot of times I'll pack up and leave and maybe come back later in the day, you know, when the sun is at a different angle. Same deal like, you know, cranking rocky banks. Say you're on a good crankbait bite down a rocky banks that have a 45-degree angle, and you make 2 passes down this particular area, but say the day before you caught 15 fish and you haven't got a bite. At that time, when you're fishing a place like that, you have to analyze what has happened for those fish not to be biting. Was there a change in the light intensity, the sky conditions? Did the water change clarity? Is the wind a different velocity or a different direction? Is there more fishing pressure? Most of the time there's going to be some type of really uncontrolled variable that is the reason those fish aren't biting. But if you're fishing, say you're fishing a rocky bank like I'm telling you about, that you got a lot of bites on the day before and you're not getting bit, if you look at the situation and you see that the weather's not going to change and everything is pretty much the way it's going to be, that is when I'll give that area, you know, maybe an hour and I leave. And this is after I found the fish. Now, if you're hunting for fish, it's a different thing. The rule of thumb that I have as far as how long I give an area when I'm looking for fish, like in practice, or if I'm just out on a lake for the first time, is if I get into a key prime area and I fish through that area for 25 or 30 minutes and I don't get a bite, I'm either looking at some type of an area change or a bait change. And that gets into a different topic, because a lot of times when you're asking yourself the question, how long do I stay in an area or when do I need to leave? A lot of times it's simply, instead of leaving that area, it's a matter of changing your technique, changing your bait, changing your casting angles, your boat positioning, mix it up a little bit like that. And another thing about, areas, it depends on how thick the cover is. If you're fishing an area that has a lot of heavy cover, say it's matted vegetation, it's a big giant lily pad field, it's a dock that's got a lake that's got 500 boat docks down one stretch. If you've got a lot of options for those bass to be in, you need to give it a little bit more time. But if you're fishing main lake Rocky Points and you hit 5 or 6 good looking main lake Rocky Points, the odds are that they're just not on Rocky Points. If they were on that type of structure and it was a good pattern, you're going to get a few bites. So a lot of it, and we'll do some more videos on this later, guys, but a lot of it, there's so many variables involved in leaving or staying. It's the things that I listed. It's ultimately a matter of, is it the technique you're using, or is it the area, or has there been something to cause those fish to move? Bass are always moving. Just because they're in one place one day does not mean they're going to be in the next place the next day. The things that will hold bass in an area day in and day out is aquatic vegetation. That vegetation can be submergent grass like milfoil or hydrilla. It can be emergent vegetation like hyacinths, lily pads, that type of stuff. Bass rarely leave that type of area. Most of the time it's a deal where you have to wait it out, change up your techniques and that type of stuff. But if you're fishing type of structures that don't have a lot of cover, that are more open water oriented, that's when those bass tend to really move around a lot. Sometimes they're just there and sometimes they're not. So anyway, I hope that answered a few questions for you guys, or I hope it didn't confuse you too much. Like I said, just to reiterate, just analyze the area that you're fishing. Try to break down in your mind the potential that area has for different bite windows. And if you're practicing for fish, give it the 20 or 30 minute rule. Fish an area for 20 or 30 minutes, fish a pattern for 20 or 30 minutes. If it doesn't work, make some type of an adjustment. So, and keep looking for them, guys, because I'm telling you right now, just the bass are always biting somewhere on the lake. They're always hungry. They're always eating. You just have to figure out how to catch them and where you need to be at. And just keep that in mind. Will keep your attitude a lot better. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Much appreciated. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't. I'd really be a big thank you for that. And we'll see y'all later. See ya.